They can hear you. So, all right. I just talked to Sue like last meeting. I'll just run through the agenda and we'll take any questions that pop up. That's okay?
Yep.
Okay. So we will call this meeting to order and we will take a roll call. So we'll just go around. My name's Josh Arand. How should we do this for order? Because I'm sure everyone's... Sue, what?
I don't know because I can't see anybody, so I'll just go next to Brogan.
All right, Sue. Evelyn?
Here. Oh, Evelyn Meeks, I'm sorry.
You're good. Julie?
Here.
Mike Sterling?
Yeah,
Pam,
here.
Mike Flanagan?
Here.
And then Matt McCormick and Michael Stanley are here. So approval of the agenda, the only item I have is I need to remove the SRO agreement.
Excuse me,
This is a resource.
but did you call Pam?
Yeah, I did. Pam, you want to say anything?
I'm sorry.
Pam.
I didn't think you called her for part of quorum.
So I need to remove the SRO agreement. Item E, this agreement is typically with the Village of Chesney Park, but it's going to be through the county since that's who employs the officers. We have a contract pretty much done. They've just been council and the county have been hammering out a couple of final details, but we've had some trouble having them get back to us. So it's just not ready yet. So I'll just bring it at the next meeting. So should be okay on the SRO piece. Next, we need to go around for the approval of the agenda, Sue.
Yeah, motion to approve the agenda.
So a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Okay. Do we go around or we just say all in favor?
All those in favor say aye.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any comments from the community that anyone's aware of? Okay.
I haven't heard of them.
Okay. So next is the proposed board and consent action items for the May 11th board meeting. So the first item is the recommendation to accept the March Treasurer's Report. Sorry. So I'm just going to run through the main funds again, like I have been doing, just updated through March. So with the page that looks like this for the ed fund, I don't know if anyone can see that. It just says Treasury Report at the top. So there's gonna be quite a few funds that sound pretty good here. Some of those revenues will trail off at the end of this year, and then obviously next year there'll be other different revenue issues. But the ed fund revenues through March are up 1.7 million. A lot of that is property taxes coming in. There was some mobile home payments, some interest on property taxes. But the federal sources are down 698,000. A good chunk of that is Medicaid money. We talked about that in the past. Medicaid is one of those revenue sources that I think is going to go down quite a bit unless for some reason they pay it even because we're not providing those services. So Medicaid will be something that we have to watch. Ed fund expenditures are up 660 or 1.41%. It will be a little higher, excuse me, than that at the end of the year because we have the third pay coming in those summer pays. But overall, the ed fund is up 1,061,000 year to date through March over where it was last year at this point. The tort fund revenues are up 17,000 and they're about 3,800 away from their budget for the year. So that revenue will come in. The expenditures are down 137,000. Most of that is insurance. So just a disclaimer, we get our insurance renewals in a few weeks. That's going to go up quite a bit. It's like a 3-year average or 3-year history on the workers' comp piece, and we have a good year rolling off and a higher year rolling on. On top of that, the insurance market is a mess right now with a ton of uncertainty. So we could see up to 100. We've had 6-figure drops for a couple of years, so it's probably going to go up 125 would be conservative on that. I did adjust the final tax levy a few weeks ago to account for that. So hopefully I've leaned into that enough that it won't deficit the tort fund. But so far, the tort fund is 155,000 ahead through March, where it was last year at this point. Operations and maintenance is up. We had levied additional funds, so they're up 222,000, and they are about 18,000 short of its budget for the year. So that revenue looks good. The operations and maintenance fund expenditures are down 27,000, so that looks pretty good there too. So they're up a total of 250,000 year to date over last year. The bond and interest for the debt service fund is actually 23,000 over budget for revenue due to mobile home payment and the additional interest there. And expenditures are 3,000 short, but that should come in right where we budgeted. So right now that fund is up 44,000 year to date. It's not all going to be this good of news. One thing to know in that ed fund too, in a couple of weeks here, we should be getting the property tax relief grant for this year. So that will be net additional revenue for this year. Transportation is down revenue-wise, 779,000. That is one categorical payment, which we have known is going to be behind. The revenues or the expenditures are up 91,000, or about 2.65%. So outside of that one payment, it's trending okay in transportation, but realistically, they're only going to get 3 instead of 4 this year. IMRF, so IMRF, we have to transfer about 300,000 of the CPPRT money over at the end of the year. So when you take that into account, they are going to be over their revenue budget this year, and expenses are down 47,000, or 2.39%. Again, there's a third pay, but it's still trending pretty well. That fund is up 254,000 over where it was last year too. Capital projects fund is only seeing 106,000 expenses of its 845. A lot of that will come in over the next few months here as we start. So we could see an actual increase in our capital projects funds because some of these projects are ahead of schedule because they've been able to get into the buildings. Typically, they don't get in until June, so we only have like a short window of expenses coming in. But this year, because they've had more time, we might see those expenses go up for this year. But overall, they'll still be where they're supposed to be. Working cash, I budgeted 2.5 million in September because I wasn't sure where that bond number was going to be. It ended up being 2.3. Other than that, the local sources should be pretty close. They might be just a hair under what we budgeted. And there are no transfers or there are no expenses out of that fund. There will be, we are going to transfer that money out later in this meeting to the O&M fund, and then it's got to go to O&M first and then capital projects. And then for life safety, they are $1,800 over on the revenue side, and right now about 206,000 under on the expenses. There should be some more of those as the year comes out, but that may trend slightly under on the expenses. So overall, things look okay, but we'll see as that revenue over the next couple months comes in for this year. But preliminarily, we were going into this quarter in pretty good shape. So if we flip to, we don't talk a lot about food service, but food service is one of those departments that has kind of been shaken up a little bit with everything going on with that. We're only serving those meals once a week. But if you look at the second page of the food service piece, they had received, going into March, 190,000 more than they had spent. So that was their gain for the year. So in March, they lost 27,009, which is actually a little less than I figured, but that was only half. They did serve meals half that month. So there's still 63,000 to the good in the final 2 months there. So there'll be some kind of deficits those months, but we'll see where that turns out to be. And then healthcare, the March healthcare expense was a few $100,000 over the March 2019. So where we ended so far right now is up 1.3%, or 137,000. Healthcare is interesting too, because we'll see, I anticipate that going down because it's obviously a lot harder to get into the doctor and all those appointments have been canceled or rescheduled. So I would anticipate that those costs will go down, and we'll see if they bounce back up over the summer. But the next 3 months, healthcare is kind of a wild card too. That last page for activity counts, our beginning balance and the current balance is within $1,300. So it's pretty much whatever's come in has gone out for activity counts. Any questions on the treasurer's report?
Not here.
All right, I'll just go around. Can I get a motion and a second to approve or accept the treasurer's report?
Motion?
I don't think we need a motion, I think we just need to take consensus, right?
Take consensus. Okay, so Sue,
Yeah,
Pam,
Yes.
Dr. Flanagan,
Yes.
Mike Sterling,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Evelyn,
Yes.
and I'll say yes. Okay. So the next item is a recommendation to approve the renewal quote for the treasurer's bond for FY21 with a limit of 14 million for a cost of $8,567. So this is the treasurer's bond that covers me, and the law says that we have to have 25% of cash on hand at any given time. So last year we were at 13.5 million. We issued these bonds. We have this property tax relief grant money coming in. So I increased that by 500,000 to 14 million. So that increases 3.7%. The rate did go up 9.3%, even though the amount covered only went up 3.7. And I think a lot of that is just because the market is a mess and everyone is unsure of what's happening. So, but it did go up a total of just over $700. Are there any questions on the treasurer's bond? Okay. Can we take consensus? I'll just go around the same way. Sue?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Dr. Flanagan?
Yes.
Mike Sterling?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Evelyn?
Yes.
And I'll say yes. Okay, next is a recommendation to approve milk product renewal with Muller Pinehurst Dairy as attached for FY21. So 2 of these items are a decrease, 2 of them are an increase. We had received a quote from Muller on March 19th, but that's right before everything turned kind of crazy. And milk actually went down as a commodity. So I had them reprice it, and the white milk and skim milk prices went down. The chocolate stayed where it was, and the strawberry price came down. So I'm not sure why chocolate stayed the same. And so I ran how much we use of each milk, and of course we use the most chocolate milk. So the total cost increase is about $6,260. Before the previous pricing, it was going to be $9,800. So we saved $3,600 by having them reprice it. I still think that's higher than I would like to see, but I've had them go back twice now. So I don't know. We'll see what happens in the market. Any questions on that? So just so you guys know, for like a frame of reference, we spend just over $150,000 a year on milk. There's no questions. I'll take consensus. Sue?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Dr. Flanagan?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Evelyn?
Yes.
Now 6. Okay. Next item is a recommendation to approve the bakery product renewal with Alpha Bakery for FY21. So there's a memo from Gail and then a price listing there. So the white wheat steak buns, a case of 24 went up 9 cents, and everything else stayed the same. So I didn't cost that out because it's gonna be like $10. So everything else is pretty much flat. We spend last year in FY19, we spent $28,000 on bread. So, are there any questions on that?
Did we go to any other bakeries?
So we put this out to bid a couple years ago, and they won that bid. And so what we do after the initial bid period is we'll get pricing from vendors, and if something is out of whack or it just doesn't make sense, we'll go back out to bid, or if it's been so many years. But in a case like this where one item went up 9 cents, so each bun went up, a quarter cent, that's not something that I would put it out for. But there's only a couple of vendors, maybe 2 out there that would bid on bread anyways. But Alpha, I think, has Rockford and us at this point. So they're the big one for schools right now. So I did not go out to bid for this again.
Okay.
Are there any other questions? Okay, Sue? Consensus?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Dr. Flanagan?
Yes.
Mike Sterling?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Evelyn?
Yes.
And I'll say yes. Okay, the next handful of items are the Heidi Show. So item F is a recommendation to approve an independent contractor agreement with Speech Horizons, Inc. to provide private and parochial speech and language services for $100 an hour, up to, hey, welcome, Sue. Up to 816 hours for the FY21 school year. It's a total cost of $81,600. This is paid for out of IDEA Flow Through Part B and IDEA Pre-K grants. So this is our private parochial speech and language services. And this has been what we've done in the past and same rate as in the past. Are there any questions on that?
Nope.
Can I hang up with you, Sue?
Yeah, I already did.
Oh, you already hung up. Okay. All right. So I'll take a consensus then. Sue? Sue, yes?
Yes.
Pam?
Yes.
Dr. Flanagan?
Yes.
Mike Sterling?
Yes.
Julie?
Yes.
Evelyn?
Yes.
And I'll say yes. Okay. The next item is a recommendation to approve a contract renewal with Sunbelt Staffing Vocal Vision for teletherapists for school psych services and speech pathology services at a minimum of 37 and a half hours per week for 36 weeks for a total cost of $385,398 for the FY21 school year. This represents a 3% increase in the wages. This is paid for out of IDEA Part B flow through, and these services, we get them from Vocal Vision because we can't find psychs and speech paths to fill with internal staff.
I got a question.
Sure.
Are we using them right now?
Yes.
No, I mean, like currently with,
Julie, do you know that one? Because typically we have another para in the room with the students, so there's been some discussion about that, I think.
I think what he's meaning is right now while we're in COVID shutdown.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Because when they're in the class, we have a pair there sitting with the student, and in this situation, we don't. So, Julie, do you have any insight into that?
I don't think that we are regularly. I think there might be a couple of situations where that's happening, but we're doing that para is what we need to do, and that hasn't happened. So I don't think we're really doing much of it.
I've heard they're not using them during the shutdown. Like Julie said, it's for certain situations that these guys are reached out to, but not like during like the school day, like when parents, I believe.
Most of the work they do is testing.
no, this, I mean, the only reason why I ask is this goes to going into the fall, obviously for next year. And I mean, is there any caveats we can put in there in case of school closure? Or that,
As far as
correct. I mean, if we're on the hook for so many hours and whatnot, I mean, just making sure that if we're not there to meet that, that we're not going to be obligated for it. So many hours.
Yeah, let us have a conversation. Yeah, let us work on that, because right now the governor said, we have to pay those, but I'm assuming at some point he's going to stop saying that as they run out of money themselves. So I don't know what that conversation's been with Heidi, so I can follow up with her and I'll have an answer for the board meeting on that.
No worries, just my thoughts.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's a good question, because we've had that conversation internally, not even from our tele people, but just in general, the people that we have in person here, could they do it tele? So I don't know. All right, so with that question being out there, can we take a consensus to move this to the board meeting while I get the answer?
Yes.
Okay, so Susie, yes. Pam?
Yes.
Dr. Flanagan?
Yes.
Mike Sterling?
yes,
Julie?
yes.
Evelyn?
Yes.
And I'll say yes. Next is a recommendation to approve a contract renewal with Northwestern Illinois Association, or NIA, for needs assessment. So this is mostly our physical therapy and our occupational therapy at a total cost of $504,915 for the FY21 school year. Last year, it was $483,000. It was an increase of $21,648. Heidi put in the memo that increase is a result of an increased need of additional days of physical therapy due to student need. So this is a co-op that we're part of. Are there any questions on that?
If our need decreases, does our allotment?
Year to year, I don't think that happens month to month.
Okay.
I think,
Yeah, no, that's what I mean.
yeah, it goes up and down if we need it. But then once we lock in the contract, they'll hire those people, and then I think we're on the hook at that point.
Because as of now, we'll be looking at no fall sports.
I don't know.
That's that was in his conference today. So I'm just been astutely watching and listening. So he said no major sporting events until there's either therapy or a vaccine. So that would mean fall sports would most likely not be, which would mean we would have a reduction in need for physical therapy. So
I don't think this is physical therapy for sports.
Yeah,
Right, Julie?
Yeah, this is for special ed.
yeah. Special ed. All of this is for special needs situations.
I got you.
Yeah. Physical
But
therapy for athletes is really, I don't think we do that. We have a trainer who does some. I think for the most part, they have to do that through their doctor.
But this does get back to your question of the last topic too.
Right.
If for some reason we're not back in the fall, what's the caveat here too? So, okay, I'll ask for that one too.
Thank you.
Would that go for F too? Now that he brought that up?
Yeah, F was the one that Julie so that F is private and parochial, but that was the one that kind of
Oh,
had me, we talked about it earlier.
okay.
Okay. So we need a consensus on that?
Yeah, and my assumption would be any one of these that are for all of this additional special needs stuff where we have a contract like this, we want to make sure that we have
Coverage.
yes, and possibility of reduced rates or something if we're not starting off, right?
Yeah, yes. That's what's so
So
hard
that-
though, is if things are
right.
coming and going, it's hard to get people, like, if we're hiring them and then we say you're off this, you know what I mean? Like it's just whatever this new norm is that we come back to, it's going to be tricky.
Right. Okay. Yes.
Okay. Pam,
Yes.
Dr. Flanagan,
Yes.
Mike Sterling,
Yes.
Julie,
Yes.
Evelyn,
Yes.
and I'll say yes. Okay, so your next item is a recommendation to approve a contract renewal with Brex Database Solutions, or Embrace IEP, for website access and additional services at the cost of $24,340 for the FY21 school year. So this is for our IEP software. It's an MTSS platform, and they track our 504 plans. That cost is a $2,290 increase. They increased the amount of the 504 charge, the per student charge on that. Other than that, this is the same services that we have been doing for the last few years.
I'm sorry, I missed it. What was the increase in price?
$2,290. Most of that is how they changed some of their pricing for the 504 addition to their product.
So it's not a per student, it's just a flat.
So it said that they increased the 504 by 50 cents a student, but it didn't go up $3,000. It went up to $2,290. So they had said, because we had asked them, this is what it said: we will be raising our IEP annual subscription pricing by 50 cents per IEP student. So it's 50 cents per IEP student, and 50 cents for the 504. So that's why it didn't go up. It's not all of our students; it's just the students that are in their system.
Okay.
This is paid for by IDEA flow through Part D, and then the IDEA CEIS grants. So these are all written into IDEA. Are there any questions on that?
Is the CEIS grant the CARES grant, or what is that? I've not heard
This
of
is
that.
what, that's the first time I've seen it like that. Let me look. Heidi wrote that.
I wonder if it's the CARES grant.
I'm looking in phrase and I don't see anything titled that. I'll ask her.
Okay.
No other questions? We'll take a consensus. Yes?
Yes.
Michael Flannery,
Yes.
Michael Sterling,
Yep.
Julie,
Yes.
Evelyn,
Yes.
and yes. Okay. So next, J is a recommendation to approve the resolution abating the working cash fund in the amount of $2,302,379.65. So this is the bond money that we did working cash bonds, but they're going to end up in the capital projects fund. So I reached out to Chapman Cutler, our bond counsel, and asked them for a resolution because they said that's what we needed to do. So because of how some of the funds are written in statute, it has to go to the operations and maintenance fund first, and then it's going to be transferred to the capital projects fund, all through this resolution. And that's where it will end, is the capital projects fund. Any questions on that? Okay.
Nope.
So can we take a consensus on that?
Yes.
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 Yes. All right, we got it down. 2 items left. All right. Item K is a recommendation to approve a renewal agreement with Illuminate Education FastBridge subscription for a cost of $12,250. So this FastBridge is student monitoring, progress monitoring for academics and reading, math and writing for MTSS interventions, as well as our students with IEPs. It is funded out of the IDEA Flow Through Part B grant, and it is a no cost increase over last year. Any questions? Like it? All right, we can take a consensus on it.
Yes.
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 Yeah. Okay, so for informational, contract under 2,500, there was a data analyzing no cost contract for iReady usage. It's a study that iReady is doing. So I signed that. But like I said, that was no cost for that. Under Auditorium update. So I sent, I believe all of you should have gotten an email from me that looks like this from AVE. I don't know if anyone had a chance. I'm not necessarily going to dig into it. I just wanted you guys to kind of see some of the prelim stuff. Originally, we were hoping to have this by the end of March. I was hoping to bring you a bid today, but we've been just making final tweaks to this, trying to make sure this process is right. So I expect the full layout of these plans any minute. So for auditorium speakers, they're looking at a Fulcrum audio system, and they've worked with the manufacturer on that in terms of coverage, because on the second page, the auditorium that has the colors that's like orange, that is the decibel range of all the seats from the manufacturer. And then we've been working with our fine arts department on what kind of LED lighting that they need on the stage. So we actually this last week changed a lot of this from what was in there before to meet. It didn't raise the cost, but to meet the need of who's in there. In the bottom left are the projection screens. So that is calling for 2 new Sony laser projectors. Right now we have really small bulb projectors that are facing against the wall. So they're looking at moving those screens, the projector screens in front of where our curtains are, so that as you're sitting in the crowd, you can see those screens easier than turning your head and looking at the wall, and then putting projectors that don't have bulbs up there that are sharper. So then there's a lot of like backstage, how everything is going to work together, what the rack layout looks like. There's a lighting, how they'll be mounted in there. So I don't know if anyone has any questions or thoughts on what this preliminarily looks like before I put this out to bid.
Will those be 2 new projection screens then? Or are we going to use our current ones?
So I gotta see if the screens that are against the wall are what would make sense, or if they're gonna hang new ones. I didn't see if it said those. Yeah, it looks like they would be new screens. 260-inch flown 16:9 screens from Zero Ed. Yeah, there's a model number on there. So
I think, are those bigger than what we currently have?
yes, they're pretty small that are up there right now. So the other piece of that too, some of those lightings, like if you look on the 3rd page with the light layouts, they put a bunch of LED lights on the back that will be able to put different color lights on that back wall and change that if they're having plays or if they want to just change how that wall is lit up in the back. We've also talked about putting one more projector, like a short throw projector on that back wall, so that Fine Arts can put like a background scene on that wall without having people walk in front of it. So that's an idea that we've kicked around too. They also this company did work with the lighting manufacturer because they were proposing Chauvet lighting. And so they've talked to them about making sure all of the color spectrums and all of that meets what we need to do. So I feel like they've done a good job. It's taking a little bit longer than I wanted, but I'd rather have it right than rushed through. So right now, I guess based on how this conversation goes, my thought was to try and get this out to bid and bring a bid to that 2nd meeting in May and see what you guys think. If we took the whole deal here, so all the brains, the sounds, the lights, the mics, we're probably closer to 200 at this point. We have 50 from the state, which we need to match 50. And then we talked about the possibility of using some of those bond funds. I don't know what anyone thinks of that. I can put this out in groups or phases also in case we're not comfortable spending that much. This is going to be 95 or 100% of what we need for the next 15, 20 years in there.
But don't we find that if you're piecemealing it out, number 1, it takes you longer. Number 2, it ends up costing you more.
Always costs you more.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't want to make it sound like we would piece it out. You could phase it in. In my mind, it makes sense just to do it, make it a state-of-the-art place and move on. But if the board's not comfortable with that, I can put that out in phases too. So I feel like these guys.
Just piecing it out wasn't the word I wanted to use. I guess the word I wanted to use is doing it in stages at different prices, where it should be more expensive than if you just do it all at once.
Sure. Yes. And so this has been really tricky because this is a every 15 or 20 year overhaul. It's not something we do very often, and because of the specialty. I know, Dr. Finney, you've talked about doing some of this work before and how specialized this is. It's tricky. I'm a little leery of someone coming in and that hasn't, because these guys can also bid on the work too that they put together. I did check with council, as long as we disclose that, it's okay to let them bid. But I'm thinking at this point that we want to put the bid out with really no modifications to it. Like they need to use what's spec'd. Because my concern is if they come up with different vendor sound or different vendor lighting that hasn't evaluated the space, then we're going to have some kind of issue, or we are going to have some kind of mismatched product in there. Right now, we're comfortable that this is all going to work together and be a really good solution for us. So I want to keep that. So I think whenever we spec out, the vendor has had to have done this work numerous times and be able to put in this system. That was kind of my conversation with council.
Yeah,
At
Josh.
the end of the day, if we put this out and we're not super excited, then we just hold until we get it right, because we can shut the auditorium down for a week or two if we need to, even during the year. But getting it right is more important than rushing it.
Yeah, in my experience, you don't tell them to bid it out as spec, they're going to come back with something completely different. I mean, you're going to get, at least sound people are the worst to work with, company to company, because they've got a very different idea of what it should sound like, right? It's like buying a grand piano. Everybody wants a totally different sound. So from my own experience in doing this work, I think this document is really solid.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
yeah, I think it's really, really, really good. And I
was hoping you were going to come back and say this is a mess or something like that.
Never. And I'd recommend doing it all at once, because you could have some weird little thing in the lighting that then causes feedback in the sound, and if it's been designed together to work together, then that's the way to go.
Yeah, I agree. These guys have seemed really thorough, and like I said, it's taken weeks longer than I wanted, but if it's right for a long time, it's worth whatever this delay is. And all the conversations we've had, because there's been some conversations since the church rent's in there, we've had a lot of conversations with Fine Arts, with Aaron and Tech, and with AVE, just all kicking around things, making sure that this meets our needs. Because if it doesn't meet our needs, then what's the point in any of this? But right now, to put this in perspective, we have 2 Bose speakers and one of them are blown in the entire space. So we have essentially no sound, and our mics are illegal, and you can't use any of the equipment that's in there because it is piecemeal. When you said that, Sue, that's exactly what we have right now, is just a hodgepodge of stuff that doesn't work.
Even if you had a good system, this one, just looking at it, is really, really good.
Yeah.
I mean, really well put together.
Great.
Josh,
So,
we're thinking it would be about that 200-ish.
say that one more time, Julie.
Weren't you projecting it to be about that 200 range, 175 to 200,000?
Yeah, so they went back and looked because they're going to bid, and with the prevailing wage, it's right at 2. Now those projectors are 2 each, so that's 4. We could maybe mess with that 1,000 here or there, but I think at the end of the day, before all this happened, that was my guess in terms of what this was going to be, was 200. There's a lot of scope of work here, and these guys had asked for quoting purposes who we use for electricians, so I told them we typically use Wilson, so they've been in touch with the local electricians that we use too. So those conversations went pretty well in terms of when they put a bid together. I need this doc like tomorrow if I want to hit that next May meeting. Otherwise, we're talking mid-June. If we're talking mid-June, installation by August is going to be pushing it. But I'm pushing them as hard as I can to make sure we get the docs, because they have all of like the cut sheets and how the wiring needs to go and what exactly needs to happen here, so that I can put that out to bid. So that's kind of where I'm at with this. I'm cautiously optimistic. Like, I'm excited about the system, but I want to make sure we get this right. So, any questions or concerns about that?
Sounds good. Looks good to me.
Okay. I think that's it for me.
We don't have consensus on anything?
No, we've already done the study, and we've already pretty much agreed that I'll put it out to bid and bring it. So
Okay.
there won't, if it's ready for the next May meeting, there won't be another business services. So we'll just talk it through at the board meeting itself,
Okay.
if that's okay. All right, that's it for me. I appreciate the time, everyone. Sue, you want to wrap us up? Or
Time to start
ahead.
saving some money.
My bird is being annoying. Go ahead.
I think we're ready to. So I think we're ready to adjourn the meeting, unless there's any other questions.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second. All those
All
in
right.
favor say aye.
All right.
Have a good evening, everybody.
All right, thank you. Have a good night.
All right, good night.
This is nice, Josh.